Hi, my name is Beverly, and today I want to share with you a little recipe that I've shared with some of my friends, and they were really excited about it and want to know how to create this recipe. So first off, you're going to need a half a gallon of milk. Now we get whole organic milk, and we buy it we're here on the West Coast, so we have Smith stores. I think other places in the country may have Kruger's or King Soopers. That's the same brand, and I believe this Simple Truth is their personal brand, but any whole milk will do as long as it's organic, and that's what we want to stay with. And so what you're going to do is you're going to pour this into a large pan, and you want a good sized pan, because when you start to bring the temperature up, you want room in there to stir. So take your spatula, and when you've got your heat on, between a medium to high, you don't want it really high, otherwise it'll stick to the interior of the pan, or even to the bottom, it'll scorch and it'll burn, and that's the last thing you want. So the first part of this recipe is a homemade recipe for cottage cheese. Now how interesting is that? So it's going to be pure. It's not going to have all that stuff that regular cottage cheese has in it. And so periodically during the 15-20 minutes it's going to take to reach that 185-degree temperature, you're going to want to stir your milk and make sure that you scrape across the bottom and alongside the pan so that it's not scorching and sticking in there. And that will help you keep the temperature even in the milk as well and in the pan. And then once you reach that 185-degree temperature, you're going to shut it off and take your pan off the heat. And that's part one. Part two is to make the cottage cheese, you're going to have vinegar, plain white vinegar. It says distilled white vinegar, and that's what you want. For a half gallon, you're going to use 3/4 of a cup. And you take that and you slowly pour it into your hot 185-degree temperature milk, and you stir it as you pour very slowly. You don't want to just dump it in there. And it's going to begin to curdle. And when it does, you just kind of stir it till it feels like it's all even. Take your spatula out. Take your pan, set it aside. Put a screen on top. Turn your timer on for 1 hour. 1 hour is going to cool it down. And once it's cooled down, and we have it in here, our finished product, it's cooled down. So what you're going to do at this point, you're going to need a strainer, preferably one with a flat bottom. And I like to use a 2-cup measuring cup. And I put it in the sink because, if you have an accident, it's easier to clean it up in the sink than on the counter. So I'm going to put that in my sink. I'm going to take my strainer, and I'm going to put that on top of my 2-quart saucepan. Measuring cup. And then what you want is one of the old-fashioned white gunny sack type dish towels. Now I like to use the corner, and you'll know why when we go into the next part of our process here. So basically all you're going to do is take your strainer and drip that cloth over it, right? Kind of mash it down in there a little bit and set it on top. And then you're going to take your milk over here, and you're going to, let me move to the other side here, and you're going to pour it into the drainer. Let me move my camera a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. And into our finished product. And you'll see, well, maybe not so clearly see, but anyway, as we drain, it's going to all go into a strainer. I need to cross in front of you again and take my spatula and get every last little bit out of here. We don't want to lose any of it. And then we'll just set that aside. And what you have are the curds. I'll give you a better close-up a little bit later in this video once I let this drain. And I like to, well, let me see. Let me move this camera over. And let's see, into the sink here. I'm not so good at that. Anyway, I'm going to set this back down. There we go. And we're just going to let this drain, and I just kind of move the cloth around a little bit in there so that all the way comes out of our curds. Kind of reminds me of that little song I used to sing as a kid. You know, little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet, eating her curds and whey. So that's kind of what it reminds me of. You know, now you can let it sit here and walk away if you like, and you know, as it drains. And so I'm going to just let it sit here and drain just for a little bit before we go into the next section. And what we're going to do is, what you're going to need is a little Cuisinart or food processor, okay? And ours is actually kitchen made, so whatever works for you. But you want the smaller one, and there's lots of them out there. The Ninjas, all different kinds of little food processors. But you don't need the big ones. We find the smaller ones, especially one that has different speeds, and you'll hear the speed when I start it up. And the next things you're going to need are flaxseed. Let me go get that. Okay, so I'm back, and when you're looking for flaxseed, we get the Barlean's fresh flaxseed oil, organic. You know, it comes in a black bottle like this, and when you're not using your flaxseed, rather than leaving it in the refrigerator, put it in the freezer, and it holds its value better and doesn't lose, you know, any of its important ingredients and everything. And this is a great, great way to get your omega-3s. And for someone, you know, it's hard sometimes to get omega-3s into children. Another form of omega comes from fish or fish oils. But with the flax seeds, you don't have that fishy taste. And when we get through this recipe, you'll see what I'm talking about and how good this is really going to be. It doesn't sound inviting, doesn't sound palatable, but wow, the first time I tasted this, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I just went to heaven. And I'm a very, very person who loves ice cream. And kind of what it reminded me of was Dairy Cream ice cream, because it's that creamy, smooth, and you'll see the results here shortly. So basically, our half gallon of milk makes approximately close to 2.5 cups of curds. And I personally, you know, we were going to try the whey and put it in oatmeal. Not so good. But you can use the whey for anything you want, or you can just put it down the drain. And that's what we do here in this household. So basically, for the 2.5 cups of whey, you're going to add 1 cup of the flaxseed oil. And then what I also did is I cut up some nectarines, just into little cubes, right? So that when we reach that point, it's going to give us a little more flavor. Now you can add any fruit that you want, peaches, plums, maybe banana, blueberries, strawberries are really good in there. But we found one that's just kind of neutral is the nectarine. And so we like to use nectarine. And it's personal preference, okay? And so basically what I'm going to do now is I am going to take the curds and put them in our little blender. I'm going to step in front of here again and move to the other side. And now you'll know why I kind of used the corner, because we're going to put it in food processor here, and this is what that curd looks like. Isn't that beautiful little stuff? So much nicer than the bought cottage cheese. Similar consistency. If you just take the curds themselves, the cottage cheese, and refrigerate it, it will be kind of dry. So you'll want to add either kefir or yogurt to it if you want to eat it plain like that, because you can do that. But for this recipe, we're going to put everything in here. Get it all out of here. And then all you have to do with your towel is rinse it out, and it's ready to go in the laundry. But be sure and rinse it out because you don't want all the leftovers into your laundry bag. There we go. Oops. Spilled a little bit here. I'm going to get every precious little bite of that left. Okay. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on it. I'm going to make some noise here, okay? And I kind of use a lower speed. So what this is going to do is just going to kind of bring it all together into just kind of a little mixture. And this is what we're looking at. Now I'm going to step to the other side again. Get my little spatula out of the drawer here. And I'm going to go into and kind of move things aside a little bit. And I'm going to add the flaxseed oil. And I'm not going to dump all of it in at one time. I'm just going to kind of move a little opening so it can kind of go down to the bottom and, across the top. So I'm going to put maybe a third to a half in here. Yeah, that's about half. Put my top back on. Start out slow. And then I'm going to go high. Doesn't take long. And our yellow is going to disappear. And then I'm going to go ahead and separate a little bit more so we can get the rest of the flaxseed oil in here. And once all this is in and starts to come together a little bit, we're going to put a timer on. And it's important that you do this for at least 5 minutes. And the reason for that is that it just, it just brings everything together more perfect and defined. Oh, we don't want to lose any of that flaxseed oil, so we're going to scrape that really, really good. And set that aside. Put the lid back on. And need to go get my timer. Once we get going here. And again, we're going to start on slow. Help bring it together. And then I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes and bring it to a high speed. Now in between your 5 minutes of putting this together, you may want to stop periodically every maybe 2 minutes or so and kind of stir it around just to make sure that all the oil is getting together in the mixture and it's not clumping somewhere where you don't see it. So bear with me as we continue with our 5 minutes. Okay, so I shut this off a little bit so you wouldn't have to listen to 5 minutes worth of grinding. But we're completely finished. And this is what our end product looks like. Nice and thick. And it doesn't look very good from what you're seeing. But I'm going to scoop some out here. You'll see how creamy that is. And I'm going to actually put a little bit to the side so that I can use it to mix with a different fruit. So it's nice, creamy texture, and that's what you want. Okay? I'm going to move this a little bit and see if the lighting is a little bit better over this way. Anyway, it's nice and creamy, and I'm going to set it aside. And I'm going to start to put some of the chopped up nectarine in a little bowl here. Move some of this aside. Some over here. All down in there. So I get about half of it in and put the lid back on. I'm going to hit the slow. Just kind of get it mixed up a little bit. And then go to high. So it brings it all together. And you'll notice when you put the fruit in, it's actually going to bring a little more moisture texture. So it won't be as dry. Because the curds get pretty dry. After our first 5 minutes of mixing, it was almost like you're going to use it. Let me use Dairy Queen again. But like a blizzard, and they turn it upside down, the ice cream doesn't come out. It's kind of like what this is. Okay, we're going to shut it off. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some more of our fruit. And you know, I think I'm going to take a little bit more of this out, as it's getting pretty full here. So we'll put it in our bowl. Okay, we'll add the rest of the nectarines. Now I cut up 3 nectarines. I like a lot of flavor. If you don't want that many flavor, that much flavor, you don't have to. It's kind of, up to the person's taste, and play around with it. There's no right or wrong way or how much you want to put in. Have fun with it. Try it plain, just plain like this, right? Okay, let's put our lid back on. We're going to start it at the low. And as it comes together, we'll go up to the high so that it can really blend together and get chopped up nice and beautiful for us. Take off the lid. Nice and creamy. I'm going to take it off of. Now be careful when you begin pouring it out so you don't lose your blade in there. You'll see how much more creamy it is, how much more liquidy it is. And once you cool it down, you'll also notice that it will come together and just kind of be a nice texture. I'll scrape the rest of this out after I shut the video off. I'm going to kind of stir it together here with what I had in here a little bit earlier. Now I've got some apple pieces cut up. And this is kind of how we like to eat it here. We just take an apple. We add a little bit of what we call our ice cream to it. Delicious. I hope you enjoyed this little video. And I'm going to go clean up my mess. And then I'm going to sit down and have me a dish of fantastic flaxseed, cottage cheese, nectarine, and apple dessert. Thanks for watching, and I hope this makes a difference for you. Just remember, there's not very many items that you need for this. You need your organic flaxseed, oil, and you also need your organic milk, and then your white vinegar. And that's about it. And then whatever fruit that you want to add to it, you can also take flaxseed seeds themselves and maybe use like a teaspoon or so, depending on how rich you like that little nutty flavor, and put it in a little grinder, and then add the ground up flax seeds to your mixture as well. You can grind up nuts, almonds, pecans, or anything like that, and also sprinkle it in there and mix it together. Just know that if you're doing the flaxseed, once you grind the flaxseed, you have approximately 15 minutes to eat, what you've ground up, so that you get all the value out of your flaxseed. And that is a really, really good way. This is one of the best ways to get the omega-3s into your children if they're having, issues like, oh gosh, they don't want to take that, it tastes nasty. Well, once they start eating this, you're going to find it's going to be much easier to get them to learn to like flaxseed oil. So thank you very much, and thanks for watching.